Our next speaker is Brian Burke, followed by Jason Pinero.
Yes, I spoke this morning, and I had spoken previously before the board. Maybe you're aware. I am a victim of fraud by the MTA. The only question is the extent of the culpability by this board. I have been told by various board members that you do not deal somehow in personnel matters. This is, of course, false. This morning you went into sleep apnea regarding employees, and previously the MTA Inspector General has spoken about alleged fraud being committed by MTA employees, and this is an issue of fraud. I have reached out to the MTA Inspector General. The MTA Inspector General is refusing to investigate this fraud that's now 4.5 years old and amounts to over $100,000. And I would ask what other entities you will be defrauding in the future. Will you be defrauding Kawasaki? Will you be defrauding the bondholders? Will you be defrauding the other employees? Certainly we have a right to know this. Either you have authority or you do not. Either you have control over your employees or you do not. In every other business, the board of directors is the governing body, and you have authority over management that is stealing my money and presumably can steal anybody's money. You're spending money on outside attorneys to legalize this fraud, and it is being investigated, I have to say, and there may be some joint and several liability as well as vicarious liability on the members of the board itself. And you might want to check your insurance if you think you don't have liability or your liability is covered. If it's intentional and you're being noticed of this fraud and you choose not to act on it or to continue to cover it up, you could see that with, of course, I'm old enough to remember Richard Nixon and his cover-up. He was not involved in the burglary. He was involved in the cover-up. So I don't know when you discovered this fraud. I certainly brought this to your attention on numerous occasions. You've chosen not to act. I have tried to reach out to the MTA Inspector General. I have spoken to Mr. Byford, who's a very nice gentleman, as well as Mr. Deal. Mr. Deal and I agreed that this is for the MTA Inspector General. The MTA Inspector General has refused to speak to me. I hope that will change, perhaps. I am asking that change. I also attempted to speak to Ms. Grant, Miranda Grant of the Special Investigations and Review. She has also refused to speak to me. So this cover-up certainly is something that will go up the chain of command to, of course, the legislature and other governing bodies over this body. And I would point out to you in the state that people as important as Shelley Silver and other important elected officials have gone to jail for criminal activity similar to this. And
Sir, please kindly conclude your remarks.
Outside counsel about it.
Thank you.
Transit attorneys. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jason Pinero.